The London we know today, shiny towers, chain coffee shops, glass everywhere, sits on top of another city entirely. A city of steam rising from street grates, of Routemaster buses you could hop on while they were still moving, of market traders bellowing prices over the smell of fresh oranges. You could walk down a foggy alley lit by a single gas lamp, hear the clip-clop of the rag-and-bone man's horse, and feel the heartbeat of a capital that never needed a skyscraper to stand tall. Do you remember the taste of a warm meat pie at Wembley, the clatter of pint glasses on a Friday night, or the magic of fairground lights shimmering on rain-soaked pavement? Today, we're unlocking 10 places London destroyed and quietly tried to forget. Some you'll know instantly. Others might just take you right back there. Number 10. The old Smithfield Meat Market at dawn. Before the sun had even peeped over the rooftops, Smithfield was already alive. The air was thick with the smell of raw meat, mingling with hot tea brewing in giant urns. Porters in flat caps heaved great sides of beef from lorries, their boots clattering on the cobbled streets slick with rain. Laughter and banter echoed through the arched halls, every joke shouted above the squeal of iron wheels on concrete. It was a place of rhythm, traders calling out prices, hands slapping down deals faster than the ink could dry. Bacon sarnies wrapped in greasy paper were clutched in one hand, the other gesturing wildly in a heated bargain. Steam curled into the cold morning air, mingling with cigarette smoke as newsboys dashed past with early editions, the paper still warm from the press. By mid-morning, the frenzy eased. Crates were stacked empty, hooks hung bare, and the last lorry rumbled away. The market floor, once roaring with life, stood quieter now, with only a few echoes bouncing off the great iron beams. For those who knew it, Smithfield at dawn was more than a market, it was the heartbeat of working London, pulsing long before the city woke. Number 9. Gas street lamps in back alleys. There was a time when London's back alleys glowed with the soft, golden light of gas lamps. Each evening, the lamplighter would stroll the streets with a long pole, tipping the flame to life one by one. As the sun dipped, fog rolled in, wrapping itself around the warm light, turning every brick wall and cobbled lane into something almost magical. These lamps didn't just light the way, they created an atmosphere. Couples strolled home from the pictures, their shadows stretching across shop fronts and iron railings. The hiss of the flame was the only sound between the distant rumble of a black cab and the faint whistle of a milk train on the viaduct. In winter, you could see your breath sparkle as it passed through the halo of light. But progress crept in. Electric bulbs replaced the flicker, leaving streets brighter but somehow colder. The last lamplighters hung up their poles, and the ritual disappeared into memory. For those who walked those streets, a single gas lamp in the fog wasn't just light. It was a scene, a feeling, and a whisper from a London that moved at the pace of footsteps, not engines. Number 8. Covent Garden as a real fruit and veg market. Before the boutique shops and polished piazzas, Covent Garden was a living, breathing market, a place where wooden crates overflowed with oranges, apples, and fresh herb. At first light, traders in worn coats and wool caps would shout prices over the clatter of trolleys, their voices mixing with the scent of parsley, cabbages, and bruised peaches. The air was thick with energy, and every corner smelled of earth and citrus. The market porters, strong as oxen, weaved through narrow gaps, balancing boxes high above their heads. Bargains were struck with a nod or a wink. No forms, no fuss, just trust between people who'd worked side by side for decades. Pigeons cooed from the rafters, pecking at stray grapes while children darted between stalls, chasing the occasional stray dog that had wandered in. By mid-morning, the streets around the market were scattered with bits of straw and torn paper bags. Vans loaded with the day's purchases rattled away to cafes, pubs, and greengrocers across the city. Covent Garden wasn't just a place to shop, it was a heartbeat, a daily performance of London's working soul, where every shout, smell, and handshake told a story of a city that thrived on connection. Number 7. The Rag-and-Bone Man's Yard. Long before recycling lorries and charity shops, the Rag-and-Bone Man was a familiar sound on London streets. His horse and cart would clip-clop slowly along the road, the cry of any old iron echoing between terraced houses. Kids would race out with bent bicycle wheels, old pots, and bits of scrap, hoping for a penny or two in return. The smell of hay and warm horse mixed with the faint tang of rust. In the yard, it was organized chaos. Piles of old bicycles, tangled electrical cords, chipped china, and dented brass. Every item had potential. Nothing was truly rubbish. With a bit of mending, things found their way back into homes, markets, or even the fairground prize stalls. The sound of a hammer striking metal was constant, a rhythm of repair and reuse. It was a world where resourcefulness reigned, and every object told a story. But as London modernized, the Rag-and-Bone Man's cry faded, replaced by silent wheelie bins and refuse trucks. The old yards disappeared, But for those who remember, the sight of a horse cart and the call of any old iron still tugs at the heart like a half-forgotten tune from childhood. Number 6. The Fleet Street Press Halls. When Fleet Street was the beating heart of British newspapers, the press halls were a world unto themselves. Step inside and you were swallowed by the heat, the clang, and the sharp tang of ink. Massive printing presses roared like locomotives, their rollers spinning as sheets of newsprint blurred past in a rush of headlines and photographs. The men who worked there moved with practiced precision, printers in ink-stained aprons, shouting over the deafening machinery. Cigarette smoke curled under the iron beams, mixing with the oily air. Above the din, the faint smell of hot metal type lingered, a scent tied to deadlines and breaking stories. It was a place of urgency, where news wasn't just written, it was forged. At night, the presses ran under harsh fluorescent light, churning out the morning papers that would spill across newsstands by dawn. Outside, delivery vans lined the curb, engines idling as stacks of papers were hurled aboard. Then, almost without pause, the whole process began again. The press halls may be silent now, but in memory, they still thunder with the sound of a city desperate to tell its stories before the ink dried. Number 5. The original Wembley Stadium Twin Towers. Rising proudly above Wembley, the Twin Towers were more than architecture, they were a symbol. On match day, you could feel the excitement long before you saw them. Streams of fans in scarves and flat caps poured from tube stations, the air rich with the smell of meat pies and fried onions. Vendors rattled coins as they sold rosettes and programs, each one a treasured keepsake. Inside, the old concrete stands creaked under the weight of thousands. The pitch seemed impossibly green under the grey London sky. The roar when a goal was scored was like a living thing, rolling, deafening, unstoppable. Those towers stood watch over FA Cup finals, schoolboy tournaments, and even the odd rock concert, each event etching more memories into their shadow. When demolition came, it felt like saying goodbye to a friend. The modern arch may be sleek, but it lacks the quiet authority of those twin sentinels. 4 generations, walking up Wembley Way and seeing them rise ahead wasn't just arriving at a stadium. It was stepping into the heart of Britain's sporting dreams, where every cheer, song, and whistle wove into the history of the game itself. Number 4. Street corner pubs with saloon and public bars. Once scattered across every neighborhood, these street corner pubs were more than places to drink, they were the social hubs of their streets. You'd push open the door to the public bar, where men in flat caps nursed pints of bitter, played dominoes, and argued cheerfully about football scores. Step through to the saloon bar, and it was a different world. Carpeted floors, babicum or snowballs in delicate glasses, and the soft hum of quiet conversation. The air was thick with cigarette smoke and the scent of pickled eggs behind the bar. Jukeboxes played hits from the Kinks or Dusty Springfield, while the clack of darts hitting the board punctuated the laughter. Everyone knew the landlord's name, and the regulars kept their own well-worn stools. These pubs were about community as much as beer, a place where news traveled faster than the local paper. Over time, changing habits, high rents, and redevelopment closed many of them. Yet for those who remember, the image of lights spilling onto the pavement on a Friday night, and the sound of a final bell calling time, gentlemen, still glows like a warm pint in the heart. Number 3. Woolwich Ferry's old wooden terminals. Before sleek metal and automated gates, the Woolwich Ferry was a slower, friendlier crossing. The old wooden terminals creaked with every tide, their planks worn smooth by decades of boots, prams, and push-bikes. The smell of the Thames, briny, oily, and faintly sweet, hung in the air as gulls wheeled overhead, their cries carried on the wind. Ferry staff in navy jackets waved you aboard with a grin, often recognizing regulars by name. Lorries rumbled on beside Morris Minors and double-decker buses, all squeezed together on the deck. The engine's hum mixed with the slap of waves against the hull, while passengers leaned on the rails, chatting or just watching the skyline slide by. It wasn't just a journey, it was a pause in the day, a few minutes to breathe before work or home. The crossing gave a sense of connection between two busy shores, a reminder that London was still a river city. The old wooden terminals may be gone, replaced by steel and concrete, but in memory, you can still hear the thud of boots on timber and the soft call of the ferryman signaling the start of another gentle voyage. Number 2. Routemaster bus conductors. There was a time when every red Routemaster came with its own conductor, perched by the open rear platform. With a quick hold tight, and a clack of the ticket machine, they'd tear off a small strip of card, handing it over with a knowing smile. You could hop on or off while the bus was still slowing, the wind rushing past as London's streets blurred behind you. Conductors knew their regulars, the school kids with lunchboxes, the office workers clutching briefcases, the pensioners who always had the exact fare ready. They'd swap gossip, help with bags, and keep a friendly eye on the rowdy ones. The ding-ding of the bell was their signal to the driver, a sound as much a part of the city as the chime of Big Ben. When they vanished, something more than a job disappeared. The open platform closed, the banter was gone, and buses became just transport, not a rolling community. Yet for those who rode them, the memory of leaning on the pole, ticket in hand, with the conductor's voice ringing out over the engine, is still enough to bring back the rhythm of a London that felt alive in every corner. Number 1. The original London Pleasure Gardens. Before glass towers and shopping centres, the pleasure gardens were where London went to laugh, dance, and forget the week's worries. Places like Battersea Fun Fair or the old Alexandra Palace ice rink buzzed with life, children's fingers sticky from candyfloss, the clink of pennies tossed at the coconut shy, and the distant squeal from the ghost train. On summer nights, fairground lights shimmered in the warm air, their colors reflected in puddles left by an afternoon shower. Couples strolled arm in arm, stopping for toffee apples or a whirl on the waltzers, while brass bands played familiar tunes that drifted across the lawns. In winter, you could lace up skates at the rink, your breath visible as you glided under twinkling lights. These were places where the city's heart beat slower, where laughter rose above the hum of traffic and time felt suspended. As land values climbed, the pleasure gardens slowly disappeared, replaced by office blocks and car parks. But in memory, they remain vibrant, full of music, color, and the smell of fried donuts in the evening air. For those who walked their gates, they were more than entertainment. They were pure, unfiltered London joy. London changes, that's its nature. But in the rush to build higher, cleaner, and faster, we've lost corners of the city that were messy, noisy, and utterly alive. These were more than just streets, markets, or buildings. They were places where smells, sounds, and faces stitched themselves into our daily lives. From the steam-filled halls of Smithfield to the glow of a lone gas lamp, each memory is a piece of a city that belonged to the people, not just the skyline. For those who lived it, these vanished places are still there, in the smell of vinegar on hot chips, in the ring of a bus conductor's bell, in the thrill of the fairground. They remind us that a city's heart isn't made of glass and steel, it's made of stories. And London's greatest story might just be the one it's tried hardest to forget. Which of these lost Londons do you still see in your mind's eye? Share your memories below. We read every single one. And if this stirred something in you, watch our last video on Britain's lost high street shops. We pour our hearts into these stories, so please support us. Hit that subscribe button. It's just one click.